Okay, moving on to item 9, the final item, the Dean Parade petition. I just want to, bear with me one moment, it's just, thank you. So I just wanted to just go through the procedure. This is the first time a petition has come to executive in a while. So the first is that I will invite the petitioner to speak and present. The petitioner will have up to 5 minutes. And then once the petitioner has presented his petition after 5 minutes, I will then open up to comments and debate by members. I will just remind, so all members have the right to speak on this item. However, only members of the executive will be voting members on the recommendation. Thank you. County Councillor Trevor Hogg, please.
Thank you, Councillor Rice. Vacant and abandoned retail properties seriously damage communities and cost local economies dear. That's not a party political point, as evidenced by Labour putting into action legislation commenced by the Conservatives. There are several businesses who would really love to rent properties in Dean Parade, which have been vacant for very many years. It was that fact which drove me to propose the rental auction regulations, which are now in full effect as of yesterday. The first step in using the regulations is to designate roads in a high streets order. There are very limited possibilities to object to such an order. The rental auction process itself begins with a notice to the property owner, followed by a series of steps taking around 6 months. If landlords do not comply with the information requirements in particular, then they will be committing a summary criminal offence. So there's a real incentive for them to actually comply. In most cases, the regulations put the cost onus on the landlord and the eventual tenant. The main exception being if the property is not let during the process. The landlord must bring the premises up to a lettable, weather-tight condition with water, power and electricity, plus the required energy performance, or be subject to liability for all the costs involved. So that brings the properties up to a standard that supports the economy and also carbon reduction objectives at the same time. The local authority specifies the acceptable uses of the property as permitted development. So it's possible to specify a wider range of uses than whatever the current planning use is, and to do that in a simple, low-cost process. This means certain changes of use can be made without even needing to go to full planning permission. The letting contract itself is for up to 5 years and uses standard contract terms. Bids are made by the potential tenant submitting a signed contract together with their offer and desired use, etc. So it's a simple, effective process. Once they've signed, they've delivered their bid, that's it. If they win, they're into actually being a tenant. However, I recognise that this is a new power for local authorities, and as such there are no prizes for being first to try it on the most difficult cases. So my suggestion is that Surrey Heath proceeds at a gentle pace by first just making a high streets order in accordance with the regulations, and then writing to each of the property owners, making it very clear that rental auction is now a very real possibility, and ideally that gets the properties let. In fact, I know at the moment one of the landlords has already taken some notice and has opened a negotiation. So it will make a real effect on them. Looking at the experience gained by the 6 early adopter councillors is going to be important as well, before we launch into trying out the rest of the process. So I would suggest that that is something where it was sensible to wait a little while and see what happens with the early adopters. And then we can identify the simplest cases and just test the water with 1 or 2. Evaluate the results of that, and if necessary, repeat. But overall, it would be, in my opinion, be best not to rush at this. We need to do it step by step to ensure success and to avoid unnecessary costs as well. We've had comment earlier today that Surrey Heath is tight on finances at the moment. Let's be sensible about this process. So that's all I've got to say really at this time.
And we would like to invite the officers to come back to executive once there is evidence of new powers being successfully implemented in other locations.
Thank you, Councillor Finan Cook. Okay, I'm going to move on to the recommendation. The recommendation as set out, which Councillor Finan Cook has just set out, is on the agenda paper. Are members agreed with the recommendation as set out?
Agreed.
Thank you, that's agreed. And that brings us to the end of the meeting. Thank you very much, everybody, and thank